Good evening and welcome to Conversations with Cheryl Weston. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation tonight. I have several special guests who will be joining me, and we're going to be talking about the uh, e- effect that the local elections have. That now that's all over. We know who we have for mayor, we know who we have for city council, and the likes. So I thought I would bring in some of our local political pundits, advocates, uh, those who are really up on things that are happening. I thought it'd be interesting to have someone besides just me. So let's get started. And we're going to bring in, it looks like we have several of our guests here for that are in the waiting room. So we'll go ahead with them because we like to really start on time and make use of this. So it looks like our lady guests are all here. Our male guests haven't arrived for whatever reason. So we will go ahead and get started with that. And I have Dr. Donna Polk, retiree, supposedly. And a lot of, I think most everyone knows pretty much Dr. Polk. And I can't get over saying that. It's hard for me to just say Donna. I always got to put in there that Dr. Polk. But she was very involved. She was the CEO of the Nebraska Urban Indian Health Coalition, and they did a fantastic job building that new building over in South Omaha. But Donna has been with that organization, was with that organization for quite some time. She was also a counselor at Nebraska Center in Lincoln. So we could go on and on about all your activities, Donna, but we won't. And then we also have someone who's new to our program, and this will be our first time having her in. And I hope I pronounce your name right. If not, I will try to do better. Melissa Polindo. Um, and she is, I like what she said about herself. She is a frontline activist. So evidently, you don't get on the back end. You right out front doing your thing. And she focuses on liberation through housing, education, environmental justice. Mother of three children, and they're gorgeous because I saw the picture of them. And also a real estate agent. So she's very busy, but she finds the time to get things done. So I appreciate that. And as I said, we did have two other guests, male. I didn't want this to seem like women power over, but it's typical. Women just come on. We get it going. We don't, backstab. We're there. So, what we wanted to talk about, as I said earlier, is the turnout for local elections. Everyone who knows me knows I've been preaching, we've got to do better in the primaries. Um, we've got to do better, first of all, in elections, period. But in our local elections, we really need to get better. We need to make sure that we're getting out there for the primary, because that's what's really, really important. Candidates don't make it to the general, and we sometimes end up with candidates that, we didn't really want, but those who came out are the ones who made the determination of who goes forth. So I wanted to start with, and I'm going to kind of ask the questions, but also give you a little time to give your comments about it. What the first question I want to deal with is, because we had two major elections, or our precincts, or I should say positions, that I was very involved in. And that is for the mayor of Omaha, who we ended up with, candidate John Ewing Jr. And then also, we had some really push for fourth precinct, and which ended up still remaining to be Ron Hug. And then second precinct or second district, which is now Miss Lavanya Goodwin. So I want to deal more with the mayor's position because that's where really the power is. And so I want to say, what are you expecting of our new elected mayor? And I'm going to start with you, Dr. Poe. What would you say? What are you expecting and what are you wanting and looking for?
Well, and I thank you so much, Cheryl, for this opportunity. And I'm very happy to meet the young person who has joined,
Melissa.
Melissa.
Yes.
Yes. And but to respond to your question, I'm hoping that Mayor-elect Ewing will provide leadership that is inclusive so that all citizens believe that their concerns are being addressed, even if it's not on a neighborhood by neighborhood level. But
Mm-hmm.
for example, if we're talking about safe streets,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important for people in Omaha to know that their neighborhoods can be as safe as the neighborhood where the mayor lives, for
Mm-hmm.
example. And I
Okay.
can't tell you exactly where that is, but I think that's often a good indicator
Mm-hmm.
of safety in the community. And the other thing that I'm really concerned about is the homeless issue,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe Omaha can do a lot better than it has in addressing those people who do not have secure housing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they don't want housing the way you and I might consider housing. They don't want to buy a property. They may not even want a long-term lease.
Mm-hmm.
They just want a place where they can come out of the weather and feel safe. Those are two things that I'm very concerned about.
Melissa, what would you say your comments are?
Again, thank you, Miss Sharon. Nice to meet you, Donna. Actually, I am doing the Zoom call at my friend's house, and I just happened to see this laying on her table. So
She being
I,
a little nosy there.
just going through her mail a little bit. So there's 4 points on this thing, that says he has already delivered, things he has done
Uh-huh.
as a treasurer. Increased revenue by 90 million annually without a tax increase. He
Mhm.
restored fiscal integrity to the treasurer's office, transformed services with bold, innovative leadership. And he was a sergeant at OPD, so he built a fully staffed police force to keep communities safe. So my expectations of Mr. How do you pronounce it? Ewing?
Ewing. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ewing.
Um, Ultimately, like I think priority, we need to have a community oversight group when it comes to the police.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that needs to be priority because we're just dealing with too many police killings. And regardless of the circumstances in which the person was killed, should not be looked at on social media where like the Omaha Police Department is releasing comments and things and then we're on Facebook arguing all day. Like that is not progressive for our city and they're very divisive. So I would expect him to clean up the communications that the Omaha Police Department has with the community, how that's supposed to roll out, and then how we're like community partners, young people. I think if we get more young people on boards and commissions, their friends will be like, oh, like my friend's on this board or whatever. Um, and they'll be interested in voting if we get younger people on boards instead of expecting everyone to have experience. Like living and being alive is enough experience to be on a board. So I think we should have a community oversight board for the police. Um, I think transportation, having lived in larger cities, I see how transportation could be much easier, could be safer.
Mm-hmm.
Kids can start to commute more. You'll see better economics if we have bus routes with numbers on them, recurring buses every 15 minutes. I mean, it's literally the same now as it was when I was in high school. You can get on the North Omaha transfer out to West Roads and back, and that's it. I broke an iPhone and didn't have a car. I was trying to get a bus to Village Point. You cannot take a bus to Village Point. You cannot get a bus to the airport. That those two things absolutely need to change, and it looks very racist because who takes bus? I mean, growing up in San Antonio, I was able to take a bus from my parents' house to the airport,
Yeah.
and I could take a luggage. So that was just making life easier. So there's a lot more commutes and better business economics if you have better transportation. So that's another thing. Um,
Well, I
and
want to interrupt you for a second
yeah,
because I want to go back to Donna, what you said, and I really liked the way you phrased that was you are hoping for. And what I have been seeing online is things that have said we need to, one, hold John Ewing accountable for A, B, C, D. So I'm going to throw back to you, Dr. Pope. Why is it that we need to say hold him accountable when we didn't hold Mayor Stothert for 12 years accountable of anything? And um, we didn't say like, I I hope or I wish or what, but now we want to hold this man accountable. Could you give any comment on that, or have you
Well,
feel free?
my comment would be that today is today. And
Hmm.
so what we didn't do with the previous mayor, I think is why we were very, very hopeful when John Ewing was elected, that we need change. And
Hmm.
so we need someone that, well, let me say this. I supported him because I was so impressed with what he did with the treasurer's office.
Okay.
That's how I met him. I
Hmm.
was so tired of standing in line for hours, it seemed, maybe not hours, but it seemed like there were long
Well,
lines
sometimes it was because the line was so
to
long.
get
Yeah.
my tags for my car or
Uh-huh.
pay my taxes on my house. And then when I would get up to the counter, the person that was supposed to be helping me was ugly, mean
Hmm.
mugging, and acting like the person, and typically it was a woman,
Hmm.
that she didn't want to be there. And
Hmm.
when I noticed the change, I said, "Who is Mr. Ewing?" And I said, "I want to talk to him." And when I introduced myself, I thanked him for the change and I asked him, "What did you do to make this happen?" He said, "I told people if they didn't want to work here, they need to go somewhere else." And consequently, that's what I saw. Okay. And so I am hoping that he will be able to ask some questions. And I do think the comment he's made in regard to the lynching, and I call it a lynching because I have a book called Without Sanctuary
Hmm.
that talks about lynchings of African Americans in this country going back to the 1800s.
Hmm.
And for some people who are new to this community, they don't have that experience
Hmm.
where people who were well thought of in the communities, the doctors, the judges, the law enforcement community, the merchant that ran the grocery store, the preachers, would gather at someone's house and string them up on a tree. And now it's very different.
Because they shoot you.
Exactly. And
So,
then take hours to come up with a story about why it happened. Okay?
and you know that I always say, I shouldn't say but we make that assumption, is if you have that information and whatever happened and it should be available ready, it should not be we're going into 4 days since this young man was killed, that it means you're doctoring or editing the video.
Exactly.
And with
Getting the
social
story
media
together.
and social technology, it shouldn't even take you that long. But when you have to
Exactly.
take and put it
Exactly.
together to make it seem like real and make people believe with their eyes that what happened, but we already know. And what I'm hoping, because I'm going to start trying to use that instead of saying
Expectations or
patience. I'm hoping I like that. Is that he will do this. He will be able to follow through. And that kind of brings me back into something that I've been talking about and thinking and saying we need to have a community advisory group committee made up from individuals and not based on friendship, but what they have of value in that community. Because we each come from different areas, is what can they bring to the table to bring to him to help him do a better job?
yeah,
Yeah.
What would your opinion be on that?
I think we definitely need to support him because it's almost like, when the president is Democrat and then the Congress is like mostly Republican, it's really hard for like things to get done because they're always fought. So I know we're going to see a lot of that. And I think it does take communities, like everyone needs to create community within their family, their friends, and they all need to come together amongst themselves and then elevate issues to a small group that does represent each community. And we all just need to find ways to support him, and continue the good work that he's doing, especially going. I think the best way to do that is like city council meetings.
Hmm.
Time consuming. It's not fun. But everybody should have, if you have any business in any area, if you live, pay taxes in a certain area, if you have a niece or nephew or cousin that has Tuesdays off, be like, hey, you really should go sit in here and hear what's going on. Because what we have in our community is like a game of telephone
Hmm.
where something happens and then they're like, it's not ever like we never get the full report of how it actually looks. So yeah, we definitely have to not always trust a community leader to provide clarification or understanding. We have to search that for that understanding for
So
ourselves.
that what you're saying is we need to start holding our own self. Each one of us need to be held accountable for what we're doing. Um, Donna, you were, I'm not sure, Melissa, if you were back in Omaha at the time, but I believe, Dr. Poe, you remember when we had a police auditor and she was fired. She was fired um, by the mayor for doing her job because she was reporting the truth. Do you think we need to bring back a police auditor or have a community advisory committee that watches over the police? But has subpoena power because with no subpoena power, it's wasteless. What would be your feelings on having a police community committee or having a police auditor?
Well, it just depends. I lived in Lincoln when a deputy sheriff went to the home of a young African American man, shot and killed him. And we didn't have any of those things. And what we did have was a bunch of people that I was able to resurrect and say, come on, we got to deal with this.
Hmm.
And, trying to attend all the different meetings and keep up with all of the different events that impact the community seems like it should be easier because of technology. But I can give you example of situations where I was there and nobody else was. For example, when the proposed school superintendent for OPS was being interviewed, I went to 4 meetings and I
Hmm.
promise you, people were not there.
Do you
And
feel though,
even
Donna, I mean, to misinterrupt you, but do you feel that's because we have been just, people have been just so beat down?
no, I don't
You're
think
not
so.
accepting that. Okay.
No, I don't
So
think
what
so.
what
I
what would
think
you say is the reason why we
because
don't have that?
they just don't go out. It's easier to sit at home and not go than it is to get in your car, find where the meetings are being held, what time are they being held, and go.
Hmm.
I'm telling you, that's what I've observed. And then, but directly to your question, I would hope that Mr. Ewing or Mayor Ewing would select a representative group of people, not leaving out American Indians like they're left out of most organizations and things, to at least meet quarterly if
Mhm.
necessary, to look at what's going on in the city and maybe not just limiting it to law enforcement, but other important aspects of the community and that they can comment and report back. You see what
What
I'm saying?
about then having holding our city council representatives accountable for having those more town hall meetings and saying, okay, here is the community, there's seven. There should be maybe a community advisory group for each district of city council. Then those would all come together and be able to give more information to the mayor on things that could be brought to attention. What about something like that? And bringing in more people, as long as it was stipulated that we don't make it all friends and cronies things as it has been. And I'll either one of you, whichever one wants to speak on it.
Yeah, I think in order for there to be a level of accountability, there has to be certain requirements.
Mhm.
I think making it a requirement that each community city council person has town hall meetings, that is something that I respect about McKinney a lot for, because I didn't see a lot of that happening until he took office. And then when he does his town hall meetings, he invites people, like Juanita Johnson would attend them and things of that nature. Um, I think that is very extremely vital, but you did say something else, like how do we get the people there? I do think that it is systemic, the issue that we have with going to meetings, because like I'm a single mother. I Most times, if I either work two jobs or I'm an entrepreneur. So when I'm focused on entrepreneurship, I'm able to go to more meetings because I have more freedom. When I'm working, I don't get off until 6. As a parent, I have to go to basketball practice and all of those things. So it's really hard to be present in a lot of rooms. And sometimes I will bring my children. I think that there's definitely like a culture that needs to shift. One of the questions in the agenda we had today was, how do we get young people involved
Right.
in the process? Um, because I was involved as a child.
Hmm.
My brothers and my sister, they were activists when they were growing up, and so I was with them all the time. Everywhere my older brother went, I was with. We had bike protests, we had marches. Like I was like front and center. So when I came to Omaha, I was able to bring that with me, that fire, that ability to, block traffic with my body, that ability to speak in front of the city council, that ability to like go somewhere pregnant with my two kids on my hands and not caring because I know what I'm doing. Like it feels right to me. There's a lot of people who don't. It takes a lot of time for them to come out of their shell. So the younger that we are getting, the people to bring their children to community meetings. I was able to do like parenting classes at the learning community when my children were younger because they had childcare. So if we really want to like educate our community on how to be more involved, we have to like recognize the struggles that they have in their personal lives. And because we want to remedy that, like
I'm
we
going
don't.
to enter real quickly here so we can get more, but you brought out a point, but here again, and young people keep complaining, turn it over to them, but they didn't show up at the election. You can't, my favorite tag was you can't pass a baton to a closed hand. It has to be open, so you have to be willing. Where's the accountability? And I'm going to, put this on you because you're the youngest of this, is where's your accountability? Where is your responsibility in coming to these meetings, even though you have a children? I can remember myself when my parents they worked. But if there was a meeting that related to something involving us or whatever, they always made sure that they were there. Um, so what I feel like sometimes young people, you're not being really taking on the responsibility and the accountability. You want something, but you're not willing to put the work into it. Just as you said, Donna, and I'm trying hard to say Donna, but I got to go back to that
It's
Dr.
okay,
Polk
call me Donna, please.
is you told me that before, and I'm trying. Dr. Poe, is when you say that, what is your feelings by being more of our elder and saying, if young people, if you want to be involved and you keep saying that, here you want to take and move forward, what do you say to them?
Well, this is what I say, and sometimes people really don't agree with me, and
That
let
has
me
never
know.
stopped you.
Well, everyone is not a leader. And so people who lead find a way. All
Hmm.
right. And to the young people, I say, you might have knowledge, but you don't have wisdom because wisdom comes with experience and age. And so I can understand them wanting to lead, but lead from what? I
Hmm.
mean, it's not as if, and I say this particularly to young Black people, we've always had single parents
Hmm.
because when the slave master brought Africans to America, they didn't say this is your family structure. They even impregnated some of the women. You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying? So to say, I don't have daycare, I don't have this or that, whatever it is that you do have, use that, is what I think is important. And if people want to be involved, they have to understand, what does that take?
Hmm.
I'm using a walker and I'm trying to go to meetings. It's convenient
Hmm.
now because we have Zoom.
Hmm.
So what is the excuse? People are on TikTok, they're on Facebook. If you want to be involved in what's going on, you have more of an opportunity than you did even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So let's do it. If people want an advisory committee to the mayor and he doesn't put it together, we can form our own advisory committee. Come on.
That's
Cheryl,
a
you
good
didn't
point.
remember about the lead issue.
Hmm.
The EPA spent $300 million on lead from 1999 to 2005. Now they're back, but where's the lead committee that we had back in those
Hmm.
days when you took the leadership?
Yeah,
You took the leadership to make sure
right,
that that money, some of it stayed in North Omaha where the lead
right.
problem was.
And
Okay?
and you're very, right about that. And I feel like, um, as you say, if you're going to be, and I kind of go back to what Ella Baker said, we don't have to have leaders. We are strong leaders within ourselves. But I like the point that you said, Donna, is we can form our own. If he doesn't want to form one, why don't we form it? And then, we take it to him and say, hey, here it is. And we're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
hold you accountable to this is
yeah.
because this is what you said.
Yes, yes,
Go ahead.
exactly.
Hmm.
So
Melissa.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Like that's my approach, right? Like in my mind, I have ideas like
Hmm.
for everything, right? And when I go into these community spaces or I talk to somebody, I come with solutions. It's like when you're emailing your boss and you're complaining about a problem,
Hmm.
you also want to include this is what I think the solutions are to this problem. So everybody, because you live in a space, should have solutions to issues. Um, yes, we should have advisory groups, but again, like if someone is an individual and they are leaders of their own autonomy in their own space, they
Hmm.
also do not need to go to a committee. They can go straight to their city council person. They can go straight to a city council meeting. They can call the mayor's hotline. Like everybody needs to start taking ownership of every situation all of the time. If for example, if like the situation with the rapper coming to town and he getting maced, okay, well, let's boycott. Well, we don't need a call to boycott. We just need to stop going there. Each individual person needs to stop going to places that treat our entertainers and our people and our community badly. These we do a good job of saying having conversations, but we put off, oh well, this person does this in the community, so I don't have to do that, or this person does this and that's not my space or
Mm-hmm.
my role. So I think if anything, it is up to the older leadership to pass down the baton. But maybe, yeah, there's a lot of people in my generation who I don't trust with leading me, and who have I've been to spaces where someone gets the mic and their introduction just really throws me off because I'm like, oh, I didn't, I have never seen you in community spaces, and I'm pretty consistent in these spaces, and you're a community leader. It just throws me off all the time. So I don't really look at that. I look at people's work. I look at what people say on social media. Because sometimes you can create a false persona, but then sometimes people slip up every once in a while. Pay attention to those slip ups. But we just have to stop looking at someone else to do our job. As a parent, as a constituent, we have to be making those calls. And I think honestly, we might can skip my generation. I want to just be honest. Like we, my parents, they are not calling senators. They're not, you know what I mean? So like my parents were born in the 60s, like early to late 60s. So then I'm 30 years old. So my usual group of people I've dated, things of that nature, my friends, I don't see a lot of them being like working towards an agenda collectively. I mean, I have people in that space that are my age, but I think it's up to like the older generation to actually reach out to the younger generation. Like, unfortunately, the young man who passed away, he was 19.
Mm-hmm.
He was that age where if we really were able to sit down and talk to him, he would have listened, I believe. If we get him
But
younger.
yeah, there's your thing is you can talk. Dr. Pope from her age group, mine from my, we could talk, but if you're not willing to listen, and that is one of the biggest things I've said, tried to teach all our kids was listen. Just learn to listen. You don't always have to do what someone said, but if you would listen, you might find some point that might be beneficial to you in this instance or another one. While we're on this point about elections, one thing, and I really would, well, I want both of you to answer this, is it has been said, and it evidently is true. Um, how do you feel about Thomas Warren, who was the chief of staff for Mayor Stothert, being the chief of staff for John Ewing? I know that they worked together, worked under each other, or whatever. But I think I've been hearing mixed. But before I say what I've been hearing or text or on social media, what's your opinion on that, Dr. Pope? Do you have a problem with that? Do you
No, I
see?
don't, I don't, if John Ewing feels comfortable having a Republican as the chief of staff, that's fine.
Hmm.
That person has to have a trusting relationship with the person that has that position. So that's what I believe. Having been a leader for many years and I had the feeling that the person that worked with me had to share my values.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's the critical piece, is sharing the values. So if he feels that having a Republican sharing his values, then that's what he needs to do. Because I tell you, we are in for hard times because of Donnie Tudall's running this country. And so that's why I think it's critical for those people, and there are a lot of black, brown, and red people who voted for Donald Trump. And now they aren't saying too much because they're reaping what they sowed.
Yeah.
Okay? So if that's that, and I firmly believe that,
Okay.
you
What
know,
about you, Melissa? What do you think? Because I've been hearing, some people are very upset because they said we voted for you because we didn't want any more of that regime, and now you're keeping someone in there who is in a very top position. What is your feeling, or what have you been hearing?
I actually have not seen anything about it on my timeline, but I'm with Dr. Polk. I believe that I trust John to make the right decision. I voted for him, so I trust him. I think he's playing politics. He knows how to maneuver in these spaces. So I trust his judgment. I think in order for us to elevate ourselves based issue on issue, we have to get away from the two-party conversation. I don't. I see it as one government, two parties. It doesn't matter to me who's in power, really, because there's systemic issues with both of them. And I was the Democratic Latina representative for the Douglas County Party, and I was not happy with the way I was treated, the way that I had seen the issues be brought forth. Um, so that was just like a glimmer into how a lot of these democratic spaces work. So I'm open to see how far Mr. Ewing can get by playing hardball, playing politics, being smarter, and just on. I trust that he knows what he's doing.
Don, Donna, I saw you shake your head. So
well,
why did you
you
shake your head?
know, I was the first person of color to represent Nebraska at the National Democratic Convention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I went twice as a delegate and once as a delegate representing or at working with Reverend Jackson. So that's where my experience comes into play. I can remember when Nebraska was a blue state. No, Omaha was a blue city, as
Mm-hmm.
was Lincoln,
Yep.
and that's where the wisdom comes in. It's
Mm-hmm.
run very differently when people share the values. I don't believe we would have the drug problem in Douglas County that we currently have if we had people who didn't condone the activity. Come on. And when I would go to the meetings where we talked about methamphetamine distribution and fentanyl, I didn't see young people there, and I didn't see a lot of people representing a diverse community.
Mm-hmm.
And meth is destroying our community, okay? So it is important to have people who share your values, and I'm not sure that that currently exists at the same level in both parties. I just don't believe that.
I don't
Okay.
And
think
so,
Democrats have shared values amongst themselves. Like, but
That's the problem.
I, I, we're not talking about that right now.
No, that's
well,
that's
yeah, I
fair.
think we have to talk about it
Yeah. No, go
because
ahead.
we're
That's fine.
going into a big election year in 2026,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we have to have change at all levels. I
Yeah,
mean, come on,
I
how
think
can we
I think if you
condone bed
yeah,
bugs
sorry,
in
go
the towers?
ahead.
That is part of leading into what another question. Do you think we should have terms for term limits on these positions, such as
Absolutely.
mayor, city council, the ones that are coming up, second district?
Can I speak on one thing before we go too far into the next topic? In regards to like the two-party system, I think that's what's keeping young people from voting is the two-party system. I believe since when Bernie Sanders ran
Mm-hmm.
and lost during the DNC committee, and everybody was like, Bernie, Bernie, got all the votes. Everyone was voting for Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody voting for Bernie. I'm traumatized. I have PTSD from this situation because I was doing the cause and get people, you know what I mean? Like I was Team Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Researched him, fell in love with him, all that. He wins in the primaries, and they put Hillary in, right? At that point, I was like, oh my God. And to see Bernie continue his trips around the country saying it's okay, vote for Hillary, vote for Hillary. But what he did on his platform was educate us. Bernie was doing all of this for Hillary, but when he would speak to the communities, it was young people need to vote, do this, do that. He was speaking to us about occupy what was being occupied in Standing Bear. He was giving us the real things that were happening around the country.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Sanders is one of my modern day idols, but I don't respect the party for what they did to him. And so the
Mm-hmm.
Democrats continue to have this underlying agenda that is not of the people. So if you want younger people like me and all my friends and younger generations to vote, you have to have another option. You have to have the Green Party or some sort of Black Agenda Alliance deal. And it could look different for every community around the world. Every urban community can have a community that looks like them, that is running a grassroots organization with their own people and their own values. Because when I'm sitting and I'm asking a Democratic senator who has come to Douglas County and asked for support, and I can't remember who it was, but one of his things was he was pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm like, how do Dems have any values if we're supporting somebody who is pro-life? And I got pushback and I questioned him, and there was a few other things. For example, freedom of education. Like that was something that was recently on the ballot. I homeschool my children. My children maybe have went to OPS, maybe a year or two here, but mostly we're private school educated, homeschooled. There was that petition that was out that was, support our public schools. And it was a Democratic initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And it was worded to support public schools. But what it took away was people's freedoms to choose where their child was educated. So, what exactly, like, that's why, yeah, I like when we talk about the Tea Party, the modern Tea Party. The modern Tea Party are a bunch of Republicans that believe the government shouldn't have a lot of power in their personal life. So
But
I
they do.
right, I'm
They
saying the
vote for the power. There's been more power by this government with the Tea Party and Make America Great Again.
right.
And it's kind of like, people, do you not understand what conservative or Republican should be?
But this is the thing. This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm Republican. I'm saying
Mhm.
the verbiage in that they don't want power, the government to have power over them.
Right.
This government was created for white people, so it
Well, we
is
can agree on that. Mhm.
what's by design. It's like a well-oiled machine. And I believe some people voted for Trump because they would rather see direct the direct issue than the issue happening and then just a smoke screen in front of it, because that's all the Democrat Party, I believe, is, because they have the same agenda. We still have police killings, we have over incarceration of our people, we had EBT Medicare budget cuts last year. At the end of Biden, he rolled out some budget cuts. People went from like 100 and something dollars to $25 a month if they were a single family house. Um, so when people see a Democrat in the office, they actually are more relaxed and they're not as involved in the community. And they're not like, oh my gosh, my road's going to end, because they've trusted the Democratic Party to take care of them for years. We need to stop looking at either party and really look at each issue, each person who is running, and those values. We need to like have a new reset of values and what that looks like for my family and for your family. And if we are on the same page, maybe that's why we just need to have multiple conversations like this to see where there's a line, where things align, and where we can push us forward. But I believe if we stop doing this blue and red, left and right conversation, like that makes people like, I don't want to hear it. And start talking
So do
about.
you think term limits is one way to help, because then you don't keep somebody in power like our Congress is in there for years and years?
Absolutely. I think term limits, I think more reasonable salaries. There shouldn't be salary increases. Or if you are in there for a certain amount of time, you can't make any more money. I don't think lobbyists should be allowed in our government. Um,
Mhm.
Especially lobbyists who are giving people access to gifts. I don't think people should receive gifts. A lot of those things. I don't think.
But then your values, see, there, I have to disagree. It's not that they, and I don't agree that they or I agree that there shouldn't be allowed, and there is a law that says that, but we now have people in office that are above the law, is you don't have to take them if your values and you understand what the government, what the laws are, what is your values. What do you say, Dr. Pope? Do you think that there should be term limits?
Well, I invite anybody that doesn't want to be a Democrat to go ahead and get your MAGA hat on and be a Trumper. No, I really do, because people don't even understand what the Democrat Party stands for. They don't even know.
Do you
Come
think the
on.
Democratic Party at this time understands what they stand for?
Well, it depends upon who's in it. Because
Hmm.
I have people, again, who are Trumpers, but won't acknowledge that they're Trumpers because they don't like the fallout. The man said, on day one, I will be a dictator. They still voted for him.
Hmm.
Okay. And so, and I don't know what I did. I banged something
You probably
and
your passion hit your button there for your get off your video. That's okay. We can still hear you.
okay, but anyway, no, and I'm being very, very serious
Hmm.
about this. I take my politics, as you know, very, very serious. I supported Bernie Sanders. He's from a part of the country that allows for independent party
Hmm.
membership. We don't have that. So those people who don't want to be a Democrat, go. I mean, come on,
Not the
you
right
know.
energy to have though if we're gonna be progressive and actually fight for our communities. It's not That's not the right energy to have to say to tell somebody like, well, if you don't agree with me, then go to the other side.
Well,
Because
why not? Why not go to the other side where you are with, where people are with people who share their beliefs? That's the only thing I'm saying.
well, that's not it's not always black and white like that. That's what I'm
Oh, okay, okay, all right, okay.
All right.
I
So,
didn't understand that part of it. I thought
yeah.
it was pretty
no
black and
I
white.
know people who have
No.
voted for Trump and have a very anarchist mindset. There's people who voted for chaos because they wanted to see it just get dismantled. There's a lot of people who did vote for Trump, and Trump runs his power. The fuel in his vehicle is stupid white people. It's people who don't have any education. It's people who
Oh,
are in
see,
the systemic education system that have failed. The system works perfectly. It either makes black people work extra, extra hard to be integrated. It passes really stupid white people all the way through, and it just perpetuates ignorance. So I have people that I know that are just like, I mean, I don't even know. They're just dumb. And they hide behind their whiteness and they have very racist ideas. You know, they think low and they perpetuate racism to their children and things of that nature. So when Donald Trump uses small words and he's repetitive, he's talking to them. um and what our community needs to understand is like that's the enemy. You know what I mean? It's the people that go and have gun safes and aren't educated. There's people who look at the black community and say like you guys are all good. Like I've seen documentaries where white supremacists are like, I just want to kill everybody that's black, and it's like a 5-year-old child sitting next to them, like agreeing with their parents. So that's I think that's what our community fails to realize. Like there's a way to fight the system and be with the system, but you can't do that if you don't know who you're fighting. And the
Well,
people we're
I
fighting is
think that goes back to something Donna Pokes has said. Um, if you weren't in the war, you don't
you don't
understand
know
or
what
you
the
can't
fight was
fight.
about.
and so
Exactly.
that's
I
what
think
makes
that's
us
Exactly.
very true. But
Hispanic. I'm third generation.
then again, you have to have that accountability to be responsible for educating yourself on a matter that is related to you. But one of the things that in my research I did, um, not just for tonight, but I've said many times is there is a saying that President Johnson made. He said to those voters, as long as I can, and he was playing his politics, he said to the mainstream, was as long as I make it so that the black man is beneath what the white man thinks. As long as he feels like he is above him, I can get everything out of him that I want. And that's what Trump has done. Um, and there are people, but they are learning day by day, and they're going to learn even more when this new tax bill is passed by the Senate. The cuts that will be made to the programs that are helping them. There are going to be, and what people don't understand is, and when we talk about like white supremacy or white people or whatever, there are more than them than there are the black and the brown.
I
More of
Exactly.
them than
do.
there are the Native American. So you think that these laws and these rules are going to hurt them? You're going to have a wake up call because it's going to hurt you more because there are more of you. And that's just a simple math. It's
Mhm.
unfortunate that people uh, who are not white are the ones that are going to have to suffer along for, as you said, stupidity. Um, Dr. Polar, if you want to get back in, hit your audit your video button, and that's will put your picture back up if you would like
Girl,
to.
I can't even find my video button.
Just touch the screen once. Is it on the phone?
No, it's on, I'm on a desktop.
Yeah, but you should have down at the bottom somewhere where it says our little video camera. But we still have your voice and everything. I want
Can
to
I
ask,
one thing?
Yeah, but I get so frustrated because I'm so used to saying, come here, help me figure this out. And now I don't have anybody to
you
do
will
that.
get it. What you know what that means, Dr. Pope? That you need to
What?
do this more often.
I know. And
If
you're the
you
first person that I've said I would do it for because of the relationship you and I have.
Well, if you want to get better at it, you got to keep doing it. So,
Oh, okay.
you
All
know how reason why I'm saying that is now you don't have an excuse to tell me no. It's because you want to get better. I
right.
know that you don't like to do anything mediocre. So, there was another point that I wanted to get to, and you kind of mentioned it when you said about people living in the bed bugs with bed bugs. And this morning, the vetoed governor had vetoed the bed bug law, and so they had it. Senator McKinney was able to get it put back up for a veto override, is what they call it, and it failed. And it didn't amaze me, and I wasn't surprised, but it is, and I'd like to have your feelings on this. Is this there were people who for it, voted for the law on the bed bug issue, but flipped now because the governor vetoed it. And there's that ideal that people have, okay, I don't want to run afoul of the governor or those others because I will need their assistance in a bill that I want to get passed. So they flipped. How do you get this change? What can we do?
Well, I think people should be outraged that we allow people who are forced, and I do mean that literally,
Hmm.
to live in OHA housing,
Hmm.
subsidized housing, and live in those conditions. And so I had never seen a bed bug until I attended a family reunion and we stayed at what should be a very nice motel near the airport in
Hmm.
Detroit. And I had two bites on my arm and I thought, well, we've been in the park for 3 days. So I thought must be mosquitoes. Well, it wasn't because on the last day before we checked out of
Hmm.
ho the hotel, I saw a bug traveling across the sink in the bathroom, and it was the first time I had ever seen a bed bug. You see what
Bed
I'm
bugs
saying?
do
And
get
so
around.
pardon me?
Bed bugs do get around. They get around
Yeah,
where
yeah,
there's in
I can
particular
understand
moisture.
that. And I will never stay at one of those hotels again, ever. But people don't have a choice. to
very
live.
much so.
And so what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
People have gone to the both mayors, well, the mayor-elect, and we'll see what action he will take as soon as he is officially the mayor. But the OHA director person needs to go. The board that governs them needs to go. That's what people have to do. I'm
So
telling you.
when you say that, and one of the interviews that he did before, he said that he had, while he was running, he had attempted to talk to the director of OHA, and she said she would get back with him, and she never did.
Was it the
So,
director
Well,
on the board of OHA or was it the
no,
director?
the CEO director, which
Okay.
yeah.
was Miss Don Joni, well, it used to be poor Joni Bulk. And so he said, when if I am elected, you will have this meeting or I will fire the whole board.
And I believe he will do that. I
And
believe he
so
will
do
do that.
you, and if he doesn't, where do we come in at as citizens and people who care about other individuals? Go ahead, Melissa. I see you got your finger. Those eyes are going. So,
So for a moment of my life, about 2 months, I was a manager of Evans Tower, Florence, and Underwood.
uh-huh,
My time there was short-lived because I am a natural radical and I went in trying to fix everything very quickly. But I also
uh-huh.
knew time there was limited because we didn't share the same values, if you will. Um,
So should she be fired? I mean, should
so,
the board be
so
fired?
I
Oh,
worked under
absolutely.
Sarah Northam. I
Uh-huh,
don't. She was my direct boss.
uh-huh.
She, she absolutely needs to go. They're extreme. They do not protect Black residents at all. There was like a Karen at the Underwood Tower who was like harassing residents there, asking them if they lived there and they're in the community space. And I was the manager, and we had to sit down and talk. And I was like, stop harassing the residents or you'll get evicted. And she elevated the conversation, and I'm like, look, you put me as the manager and this is what I'm doing. I told her if she continues, because she's harassing people and she was saying certain things that was caught on camera that were like racist. And I was like, are you, like I said, the word, when you say the R word, it makes people like shiver and shake and they just can't believe that you called them out. But I was definitely doing that. So they have a lot of systems in place
Mm-hmm.
that are not, they're not friendly to people of the community. They are very old fashioned. So they need a complete audit. They need a complete update. They move a lot of money around because it's two different organizations, and
Right.
LLC and a nonprofit, and they're a quasi relationship to Omaha, the city of Omaha. So they are not specifically run by the city of Omaha. So
No.
his power is very limited. So I don't know all
Well,
that he
but the
can do.
power is in the board. The board is the boss of, people like to say boss of the director. Because of the way it's set up, the city is not the one who hired the director, but they hire the mayor recommends all the board members, and the board members are certified or voted on by the city council. That's where the power is the board, because that whoever that director has to answer to that board,
Yeah,
But
and they need to do.
there's
do you?
updates in their systems. Oh, I'm gonna just say one more thing. So the Evans Tower was
Mhm.
where my office was, and I was working really hard to get a lot of people caregivers. A lot of people need like almost legal representation to make a request from OHA
Mhm.
because they don't make it easy. It's not layman's language, essentially. I'm the type of manager where I'm easy to talk to and I try to assist people within my sphere. I kind of pushed it because I was assisting people in printing out AD waivers, which is age and disabled waivers. So essentially, you can have caregivers come, but if they say they don't know, understand, like a caregiver sitting at the table handing out donuts, they don't understand like how that person can help me. And we don't have the best caregivers in Nebraska. They're constantly getting audited. I've seen some things. So like our caregiving businesses, they need to do better. But if we had like within OHA, when someone applies for housing,
Mm-hmm.
that point, assessing their needs truly. Like, not just making it so robotic. Like, you need to do an accommodation form, and it needs to get submitted and approved just for you to get a shower, like
Yes.
what is
Mm-hmm.
bar in the shower or whatever. And then also the conditions of some of these units should not ever get as bad as they get. We, like most management companies, do annual walkthroughs. When I do an annual walkthrough and I see like your walls are yellow, you cannot smoke in your apartment anymore. And we're gonna charge you to paint, but the paint's getting done immediately because I'm not gonna like let that fall apart. They have OHA does not pay their vendors. Like they can't get some work done because they're in default so badly with some people. They have, I mean, an immense amount of work orders that need to be completed. Everyone's just really comfortable in their position. So the whole organization needs a complete audit. Every unit needs to be audited. I'm sure
Well,
there's.
you can't, they get there again because why? They're quasi, the city is actually limited to what they can and cannot force. But here's the problem, and I'm going to let you speak, Dr. Pope, because we're going to run out of time here, is if you go back, the one that can really put the hammer on is HUD. But who will pay for it is, and I don't mean dollar wise in the sense that it costs so much. If HUD takes, they can take control. And that's where I think it needs to be worked with the city and all the other is say, HUD, we want you to come in and take control and do it. Otherwise, if HUD's, they can stop the money flow, but then who gets hurt? It's the people. So
But
I
Sherry,
do think we're
this is
going to
why I
look for it.
said
Hmm.
we need to know who the Trumpers are because now more than ever, people are going to sit on the sidelines and make excuses for not serving certain communities.
Hmm.
Trust and believe. And
Well,
so
that's
if
very
we
evident.
know,
Yeah.
yes, if
Well,
we
we have
know
to
who
serve.
they are, then we don't have the expectations. It's just like the drug problem that we have. You
Uh-huh.
look at the people who should be outraged and who do something, and they're not going to do anything because they're not being hurt by it. And
Right.
so, if we have relatives that are living in the towers, which fortunately I don't, then that's why nothing is being done. People are making excuses, and I believe John needs to fire everybody related to working in those areas and get people in there that don't just sit
Right.
and make excuses, but are willing to do something. Come on.
And I think hopefully, that is what will take place is, and I believe, as he made the statement, is just fire the whole board. I believe day one, almost, as they say, you need to go in. If she hasn't talked with you, given you a plan of action and what will and not be done, fire that whole board and look for others, but let's not make that board be friends and cronies and who's donated the most to your campaign. We're
Exactly.
almost out of time. I want to give each one of you, since I started with Dr. Pope before, I'll let you be the ending. Um, First is anything that you would like to say, and there's a couple more things that we didn't get to, so that means that you both have to come on again. But I will give you a couple of minutes to sum up anything that you would like to say in closing.
I would say, I think everybody needs to just meet their neighbors on their block, introduce themselves, know who's around you, make friends, and then I think everybody should find a church home. I know it's not relevant, but it's relevant. Community building and spiritual growth is very important for our community. A lot of people are looking for the self-actualization hierarchy. You need friends and family, food and shelter. Um, like go out and search for that, and then I think you will feel empowered to want to help those people that you've met. And don't wait for somebody else to do what you know needs to be done.
Dr. Pope.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, Cheryl, and I'll need you to come over here and help me figure out when things like this happen, uh, how to get back on. But I thank you for this opportunity, and I hope to become more mobile in the next 30 days, and I can get out and go to some of these meetings. But
Hmm.
I appreciate everything you do, and I have
Thank
so
you.
much respect for you, and I had the privilege of serving on this panel with the young lady, also to hear her views.
Uh-huh.
So thank you and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Well,
Nice to meet you.
I thank both of you, and like I said, because we didn't get through everything, I'm going to hold you to it. Is that, and you can't let a woman sister down. You can't do that. So I know you both are going to be coming back, and we have some other things. And because I did want to get into the incident with the young man, but hopefully when we talk again, we will have some information and we'll be able to give an opinion on that. So thank you both. See there, you did it.
I did.
We're looking at you. You did
Okay.
it.
Thanks, Cheryl.
You did it. I know you could. Anyone who's done as much as you've done for when you were working for the Indian Health Coalition, Nebraska Indian Health Coalition, you can do it. It's just you may take a moment, but you can do it. So thanks, ladies. Have a great evening, and we'll be back again. I've got to figure out maybe if you guys have it, you can text it or email me to what I got to call this. Woman power, woman cock, the young and the old,
There
and
you go.
in between. Just send me something because I've got to put a title on this. So I'm
Okay.
looking, I'm open for any ideas. Okay?
Okay.
All
Thank you.
right.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank you
evening.
very much. Have a good evening.
Bye bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's conversations with Cheryl Weston. I sure did. And I really liked it because I had, as they say, someone from one end and someone from the other end. And I was kind of like in the middle, but it was nice that we had different perspectives from different viewpoints. And as I said, they will be returning. And if there's things that you would like to have me or guests you would like to appear or you would like to uh, give input, hey, send it to me. You can reach me at the email at cwcwomaha@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a guest or if you have a ideal for one of the shows, just let me know. Again, that's CWCW, and it's very simple. Conversation C with W, Cheryl C. Weston, W. CWCWOmaha@gmail.com. We hope you have a wonderful evening and we'll be looking forward to next session.